My name's Paul Fraser and I'm a vet who's been in horse practice for about 40 years. I've got a special interest in laminitis and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. It's also known as founder and it's a painful inflammation of the feet and it results in an unusual gait and an unusual stance where the horse is trying to get its weight off these very sore feet it's got. So to understand laminitis, we really have to know a little bit about what's going on inside the foot. So we'll start with the foot here, and you'll note this foot is a laminitic foot and there are rings on the outside of here. We'll refer to these rings later on. So now we're going to go inside the foot and have a look at some of the important structures we've got within, and I've actually labelled all these for you. So there's the big deep flexor tendon, this blue structure here. There's the pedal bone, there's the sole, we have the hoof wall here, and we have the coronet, which is the area that the hoof grows down from, and then this pink area here is the most important area, the lamellar, which is what we're going to be looking at today. So there are several causes of laminitis, but today we're just going to deal with the nutritional ones, which are caused by eating grass, which is high in grass sugars and starches. So what tends to happen is in sunny days, the fast growing grass will get sunlight on it, which will produce a lot of sugar within the grass. And certain horses have an inability to metabolize these sugars. So what happens is the horse will eat the grass and its sugars will pass through the stomach and into the small intestine, and in that area quite a few of the sugars will be absorbed, but some of the extra grass will spill over into the large bowel. Now the large bowel is basically a vat full of microbes which is designed to digest roughage. So when the sugars arrive there, the microbes start to ferment the sugars and create an acid. The acid then kills the microbes release toxins, and the toxins travel through the blood and come down and begin to form an enzymatic reaction in the feet where they actually destroy the lamina and produce laminitis. The next thing that happens is the deformity of the lamina starts to weaken this attachments between the pedal bone and the hoof capsule. And so the big powerful flexor tendon begins to contract and it pulls the pedal bone away from the inside of the hoof capsule. This is known as pedal bone rotation. And it can reach the stage where it's so severe the pedal bone will actually pop out the bottom of the sole, as we see in the model that we've also got here. After pedal bone rotation, things can still get worse. We can get a complete separation of the pedal bone and the hoof capsule, with the pedal bone dropping down within the hoof capsule, and this is known as a sinker, and a sinker has a very, very poor prognosis. Now let's take a closer look at this pink lamellar area here. It's made up of very delicate folds of tissue, like this. And these run from the top to the bottom. They, in cross-sectional area, they look very much like a fern leaf. You have primary branches and you have secondary branches. And these branches interlock with the inside of the hoof, and that's what actually holds the hoof onto the pedal bone. As the hoof grows, it starts at the coronet, as we said, and it runs down these gentle folds, and they're almost acting like railway lines, guiding the hoof from the top to the bottom. Now what happens with laminitis is these little folds become inflamed and they become swollen and they become very, very sore. And then they eventually begin to deform. And so we end up with lamina that, instead of looking nice and smooth and straight, look gnarly and distorted like this. So then what happens, as the hoof starts to grow down, it hasn't got these lovely little guides to grow down anymore, and it starts to slip. And this is when we see these rings that we saw on the outside of the hoof at the beginning of this video. So if your farrier is going to help with these laminitic cases, what they will do is they'll try and shoe the horse or trim the horse so that the weight is carried here. So this piece gets removed and then this unloads this particularly sensitive area at the end of the toe. So what can we do to help our horse with laminitis? The first thing is get a diagnosis. So get your vet to come in and have a look, and we can get some advice on some treatment. We can actually give some painkillers. The vet may well want to x-ray the feet here to see where the pedal bone is lying within the hoof capsule. The next thing you may want would be a farrier, and the farrier can trim the feet or shoe the feet in such a way as to unload the painful area at the tip of the foot. But most importantly of all, you need to be able to manage the diet, what's going into your horse. And especially if you know you've got a horse which has had laminitis before, or has one of these fat horses with cresty necks and fat around the top of the tail, which may well have an inability to digest sugars. So the important thing is to keep them off fresh grass. Keep them locked up, feed them roughage as much as you can. If you're going to let them out onto the grass, let them out early in the morning before the sunlight has had a chance to hit the grass and build up the sugar content which occurs during the day. The other thing is, don't forget, if you're feeding hay to your horses, the actual hay will have some grass sugars in it as well. So it's a really good idea to soak that hay for 30 minutes to wash all the soluble grass sugars out of the hay before you feed it to your horse. There are also a couple of feed additives which may be useful. One is Founder Guard, and what that does is it actually is a gut-active antimicrobial, and it stops the proliferation of these microbes, and it makes them less likely to be able to ferment the sugar and turn it into acid. And then the second one is a substance called Equine. It's a buffered bicarbonate, which is eaten. It passes through the intestinal tract till it gets to the large bowel, and here it neutralises these acids which are formed because of the fermentation process. Now, I hope this short video has helped to simplify this, what people see as a very complex subject of laminitis. And I'd like to thank our sponsors who've helped put this together. So that will be the Rodmore Charitable Trust and the New Zealand Equine Research Foundation. But most of all, I'd especially like to thank you for watching.